members. They say 2 members were invited for fair hearing, and they chose not to attend, whether by their, all to be represented by their advocates. So, and the County Assembly has the powers as that of the High Court. So we have no option other than proceeding with the said motion. Honourable members, the floor is open now. We proceed. Honourable Julius Motwer, member for Matuta Ward.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for this opportunity so that I can contribute to this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, number one, this House, Mr. Speaker, this House is a house of rules and regulations, Mr. Speaker. We want to appreciate the fact that you have highlighted sections of the Constitution of this country that give fair hearing to whoever is in question. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the fact that the 2 members of the board were invited for a fair hearing and they have failed to show up this morning is itself a clear indication that they have already abdicated their responsibilities, or they have already surrendered to their fate. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that the Constitution is sacred and supreme, Mr. Speaker. It is very clear that the 2 members of the board, that is Mr. Leonard Okarmugari and Ms. Edith Nyaboke-Omari, have violated the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the basic duties that they were supposed to do is to prepare accounts and expenditure of finances of the County Assembly. And then they table them in this House, Mr. Speaker, for discussion and ratification. Mr. Speaker, a duty that they did not fulfill, Mr. Speaker. By failing to table accounts and expenditure of finances in this assembly, itself is a gross misconduct, gross violation of the rules of the game, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this itself calls for their revocation, the revocation of their appointment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I find that they lack integrity, Mr. Speaker. They lack honesty, Mr. Speaker. They lack qualities that mandate them to hold that office, Mr. Speaker. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, external members of the County Assembly Service Board are very important, Mr. Speaker. We presume that they are supposed to be impartial, Mr. Speaker. We presume that they are the people who are supposed to have introduced order and sanity in the board, Mr. Speaker. But they gave in to coercion, Mr. Speaker. But they gave in to intimidation, Mr. Speaker. Hence, failure to execute their role as expected, Mr. Speaker. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, want to say, because of their inability to perform their duties, the duties expected of them, Mr. Speaker, they have rendered this House incapable of discharging it is mandate, Mr. Speaker. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, say it's high time we revoke the duties allocated to these two members, and say, Mr. Speaker, they need to be served with revocation letters so that they cease holding office, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, word has it, Mr. Speaker, that these two members have been invited to various meetings by the chair of the County Assembly Service Board, Mr. Speaker. They have failed to attend.
Kwa nafasi, kwanza kabisa nataka kusema kwamba nakala ambayo imetolewa na Mheshimiwa Nyamira ni safi na inanukuu yale ambayo yameturuhusu kwa muda, na kwa kweli yametugandamiza sana. Mheshimiwa Kinara, ukiangalia yale mambo ambayo yametajwa na yale ambayo wamefanya, ni bayana kwamba kuna mambo fiche. Hao wawili ambao ni wawakilishi wa wananchi, kwa sababu wametolewa pale nje ili waangazie yale ambayo yanatendeka katika halmashauri ile, wamepotoshwa kwa kukosa kupeana habari mwafaka ili matumizi na makadirio ya hili bunge yajulikane wazi. Mheshimiwa Kinara, wananchi inafaa wajue ni nini inaendelea katika kaunti yetu. Ndio maana tukaleta wawakilishi kutoka nje, wa kike na wa kiume. Kufikia sasa, Mheshimiwa Kinara, wananchi wale ambao walituteua, wale ambao tunawakilisha, hawajui ni nini inaendelea katika.
I want to reiterate that the motion on the floor this morning, as the weight matters and affects us as members of the Assembly and also the public. Honorable Speaker, some time back, remember we impeached the then Speaker on the similar grounds, and he was the chair of the said board. The board has misbehaved as accused herein, and you remember, Honorable Speaker, we as members of coalitions in this assembly, each coalition withdrew their representative at the board on similar grounds too. Because we want a total cleanup, Mr. Speaker, this motion is timely, and the service board is a product or a branch of the main assembly, Mr. Speaker. And if it cannot give service to the members of the assembly and the staff, then there is no reason for them to continue holding office. Honorable Speaker, we are the ones who constitute or who constituted the board when this third assembly resumed. And therefore, we expected better service than when the said members cannot obey the leadership of the assembly. They can deny service to the people. At the same time, they can ignore calls, SMSs, and other means of communication for them to attend a meeting with the leadership so that discussion is held on the welfare of the assembly. Honorable Speaker, I have not seen an organization in the country or elsewhere in the world where employees defy calls by the employer. So, Honorable Speaker, I find these two people guilty as accused. And again, I have realized from the motion Honorable Doris has tabled that they are operating with the highest immunity. Honorable Speaker, we cannot forget that of the recent past, we have had resolutions that are purported to be from the board going around in the newspapers and even in the Kenya Gazette that they have sat and deliberated on some issues affecting the assembly, which is legitimate.
Due to this very important motion today, Mr. Speaker, this is the House that vetted these two commissioners, these two board members. We have monitored their performance keenly, and honestly, they have performed below bar. And it is the same House that can revoke their appointments. So today, Mr. Speaker, we have sat here with a determination to remove them from the board so that we can have people who can render good service. Mr. Speaker, I remember when the committee, when the Honorable Nyamira under the committee of BIAC wanted to check the audit report from these board members and the chairman, when they realized maybe they had some mistakes, they sacked the committee and the Nyamira under flimsy grounds because they never wanted to be checked. This is arrogancy of the highest level, Mr. Speaker. And these people cannot continue working in this assembly when they cannot be checked, particularly on what they do under finance section. Mr. Speaker, we terminated the services of the former Speaker under impeachment because one reason was that they were working with relatives. One board member, her name Edith, is a sister-in-law to the chair, the former chair, that is the former Speaker. This is madness, Mr. Speaker. You cannot bring your brother's wife to work together in the same board. That is madness. Mr. Speaker, these people must go, and if the time we vet the new members, we must check thoroughly their former performance, how they have been working, and they should not be relatives serving this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, that one must be taken seriously. We want this honorable House to be honorable and not horrible, the way it has been under the former chairman. Mr. Speaker, they have gone ahead and recruited some members, a person by the name Nyamira. This board has recruited him to be a clerk out there. And I wonder, Mr. Speaker, whether we have two counties. We have one county called Nyamira, County of Possibilities.